In this video, we are going to relate the class that is described on page 28 of Thinking in Java to Java itself. We're going to start with our project, and we're going to create a class which corresponds with the UML diagram on page 28, and I will be showing that UML diagram here in the video if I can figure out how. So the class is called light, and so we're going to create the light class, and here we can right click and say new, and now we just want a Java class for this. We don't want the main class just yet. So we're going to create the new Java class called light, and that corresponds with the type name in the UML. And you notice that now we have NetBeans creates a public class light, again in the same package, and and if you notice that there are the interface for light, as described in the UML diagram, has four ways in which you can interact with this light or send it a message. Those are on, off, brighten, and dim. Each of those will correspond to a public method in the light class, and here's how we create those. We use the keyword public. Again, what the difference, why we say public, will be explained later. Void, again, the void will be explained later, but on is the first item that's listed in the UML diagram. The next are off, brighten, and finally dim. So these four methods, public methods, correspond to the interface that is being described in the UML diagram for light. Now, the way that we use this is to create an instance of light in typically somewhere else, and then if we want to send a message to our light objects, we will invoke one of these methods. So let's take a look at how to do that. Now let's create a main method, a Java main class, and let's call it test light. And the thing what we need to do here is we are going to instantiate a light object. Now, when we define a class, we're actually, among other things, defining a whole new type. So light is now a type that we can declare to be we can declare a variable to be of type light, and here's how we do that. We say light, and then lt is equal to new light. Again, this is like the code that's on page 28. I usually, rather than these very brief variable names, are kind of a throwback to the old days where they had to preserve the number of letters that you type. So I actually prefer something like my light. That's something a little more descriptive than LT. Okay, so how can I interact with this? Well, I can turn it on. Here's how I turn my instance of light on. I say my light, again, the object, the variable name, dot. Now, here's something really cool about NetBeans, is notice that it brings up a list of possible completions that I can have. So notice that it has brighten, dim, off, and on, and they're bold-faced because those are the ones that are in that class. So let's turn it on. I can select on and just double click it, and we have it there. I can now run this. In fact, let's change our default main class from Hello World to Test Light. And I say OK, and now we run it, and we see that it just ran and nothing happened. Well, why didn't anything happen? Well, because we didn't tell it to do anything. Now, just to show that the on method is being called, let's just do a little print line. Okay, so now when we call this method on, it'll print the light is on. So we run that, and oops, I said print instead of print line. Okay, so now we see the light is on. We can call other methods. My light off. And let's okay, so when we call off, it should say that it's off. And we write it light on, light off, clap on, clap off. Again, so play around with these, with this. Again, to make sure that you're calling a method, you need some way of indicating that. Now, if we were actually writing this class, what we would do is we would be making whatever changes were necessary to that object that would indicate the light was on. That would typically involve having an instance variable that would describe the state as being either on or off, but that we're not quite there yet. This is just by way of illustration for the example on page 28 of Thinking in Java.